some people were asking about holding on to your ult or something like that when there's things like Genjis and Tracers on the other team. Something that's very tactical that you can do with your ult is when you get a super early ult charge, and I guess I'll just tack this in the video. When you get a super early ult charge, right, and you get away safely, some people will be like, wow, 6 people just lined up for me off the gate and now I suddenly have 100% ult charge or something like that, right? But what they'll do, their first instinct is to be like, okay, well, I got my ult, I need to go use it. Gotta go use it, gotta go put it down before I die. Gotta go put it down before I die. That's the only thing that's running through most, like, more amateurish Symmetra's heads, is they just want to throw on the ult before they die. Now, the problem with this is, you're much more likely to die by putting down the teleporter. Now, let me go into this for a second. Let's say they have a Genji and a Winston and a Tracer. Let's just say they were going dive comp, right? Now, what's going to make them want to just suddenly go looking for you? That notification says, hey, they have a teleporter. Now, this is an audio cue, okay? This is an audio cue that happens based on certain variables in the game. And because it's an audio cue, it can be abused. What I mean by this is you can hold on to your ult, go incredibly far back, because really, if you are just spamming, spamming and stuff like that, spamming your orbs everywhere, you're just giving them ult charge. You're just giving the enemy team supports ult charge at that point. You already have your ult, you don't need to keep doing that. Get way far back, get super far away, super safe, maybe even up on top of here, wait until there's a team fight, then drop down, and while there's a bunch of ults going off and all these different audio cues, while it's incredibly loud and impossible to tell what's going on, and probably they're going to be on comms as well, talking to each other and yelling, that's when you throw it on the teleporter, when all of that's going on. So the audio cue of this much teleporter being put down gets masked by all the other sounds in the game. If you're just like, in the first 10 seconds of the game, oh, I got my ult, and they're literally not even at the choke point yet, hey, they have a teleporter! Guess what the 3 dive heroes on the team are going to do? They're going to go over this wall, okay, easiest thing in the world to do. Even a Lucio can just wall right over here and just start looking for the teleporter early on. And then what they do, they're going to have whoever their dive comp is, they're going to have someone go looking for that. The other guys are just going to take poke damage intentionally, build up an Ana ult. Like, they're just going to let the Reinhardt take damage intentionally. Ana gets fed an ult, right? Next thing you know, they have Ana ult. Teleporter's dead. That's the key to go in. Boom, everybody floods in. They have Ana ult. You have no teleporter, you lose. So one of the best things you can do is hold on to the ult and just throw it down when there's a bunch of chaos going on that you're safely away from, by the way. Let's not get carried away and throw your teleporter down in the middle of a team fight. I mean, that's a very situational thing. And I guess while we're on the topic of teleporters, I'll just throw a situation at you real fast. 30 seconds left. The entire enemy team just got team wiped. You have your teleporter. What do? Well, what you do, let's say there's a team fight that goes on. You wipe their team. 30 seconds left. They got to cap this, right? Something that's incredibly smart that you can do, and I've won games with this. I think I actually have a VOD of it somewhere on my hard drive from when I was playing, is I actually threw down a teleporter in here. Now, there's 30 seconds left, right? They're coming in, they're Lucio boosting, they're doing every kind of desperate thing, switching to Winston, switching to really fast heroes, Diva, whatever. They're coming through, and they just want to get right back on the point so the game doesn't instantly end from not being, on the payload contesting, right? The thing is, when they do that, no one's ever going to take the time to go all the way around here, okay? They're not going to do that when there's so little time remaining. So whenever there's very little time remaining, it's very, very good to have a forward teleporter. And what I mean by that is a forward teleporter in the sense that it's not in a linear path with where they're expected to go. So let's say they're rushing back to the point, right? They hear the teleporter sound. Okay, well, I'm a Winston. There's a teleporter going down. What's the most likely spot they're going to put it to, at the very last second? Oh, well, maybe here, here, over here, maybe somewhere over here. When in reality, your teleporter's all the way back there hidden on the point, and he just wasted all this time going over here. Because the Winston is probably one of the last people that you're ever gonna have coming this way. The dive heroes with that amount of time remaining aren't gonna really go this way. Maybe Tracer will flank here with a pulse bomb or something if she has a pulse bomb up. But especially if you have someone zoning off right here, especially if you have a bunch of turrets right here and a teleporter and there's 30 seconds remaining, they're not going to waste their time fighting a Symmetra with a wall of turrets here, which is even easier to do now after the update. They're just going to go straight onto the point because there's little time remaining. And then if your team gets wipes, you just go in there and contest at a proper timing. Your team teleports in, and assuming you can contest at a proper time, your team just gets back in there for round 2 and you win. And I've won games with putting a teleporter here with that amount of time remaining. It's a really strong TP. It's an example of having a forward TP that is, how would you describe it? It's non-tangential, I suppose, to their expected path, like where you expect them to go when there's that much of a time constraint. So it's just a really good kind of off thing that you can do. It's pretty situational. You can do that kind of thing on every map. But that's just a really famous example that I've used a lot of times on Hollywood. And just people don't take the time to clear it out. And you also take into consideration the way that sounds work in this game. I'll show an example of this right now. So if you listen carefully, hear that sound? But you won't hear it behind this wall, as you can tell. But as soon as I come around the wall, you can hear that little droning sound that the turrets make. Now the way sounds work in this game is pretty funny. Back in the day in Quake 1, good old 1996 engines, right? Sounds would perpetuate through all surfaces, all brushes in the map. Just brush was a fancy way of a mapper's term of saying a surface. It would go through every wall in the game. So, it would kind of be spoilers because you would hear a monster behind a wall. You would know there's a trap here. You could just tell that there's going to be something that would pop up here and just jump scare you, right? In this game, sounds don't really do that for certain things in the game. For example, these turrets. Same thing with the teleporter. The teleporter has a very limited area where you can hear where it's actually coming from. So if they're right here, if they're coming through this choke point, right, they're not going to hear. Some people may think, well, maybe it's close enough through the wall that you could hear the teleporter. No, you actually cannot even hear the teleporter. Here, I'll actually demonstrate this now, just to show you what I mean when it comes to the radius kind of thing. So I would probably put it right here. It's kind of situational.
I have opened the path.
As you can tell, especially with there's a bunch of ambient sounds going on, but as you can tell, even from right here, you can't hear it. So they're coming through here. 30 seconds left. They're getting on the point. They're getting on the point. Even if they hear the notification for, hey, they have a teleporter, they'll assume it's probably on the other side of the wall. They'll all be looking over here to contest people coming back to these choke points. They'll be doing their little spam. Right? But next thing they know, they're getting flanked.
Anyone out there?
Now listen. I'm all the way here on the stairs, and I'm just now hearing it. But if I'm on the point, I'm not hearing anything. Not hearing anything. If I get over here, I can start hearing it. But by this point, if they're already this pushed up, your teammates have already been wiped, and they're already starting to come back through the teleporter. So it's just a thing of the sound radius and teleporter is actually a little bit more sneaky than you would expect if it's not something that you've paid attention to in the past. So that's just another thing. It's just a situational thing for a TP placement. So I guess that's a lot of the big things I could say about Symmetra. I guess I can say what you can 1v1. First of all, some people think, oh, well, you can't 1v1 a Roadhog. Unless you get hooked, you actually generally win the 1v1 if you have good movement and you can kind of do all these kind of crazy jukes as you're charging up on them, especially after the update where you get a range buff. And there's actually something I wanted to demonstrate real fast. The attack range, it's kind of finicky, alright? And I expect this to be even more so in the PTR. I haven't played the PTR, but I don't necessarily think this is a bug, so it's probably not going to be fixed, because there's nothing really to fix if it's not a bug. Yeah. But if you attack something with your left click, okay, I might go into training map for this. If you attack something with your left click, the initial range, there's an initial range to this, right? Get closer, closer. Right, and then I start attacking. The thing is, though, once you're connected, once you finally found a target and the left click is attacking something, if you step back, you're still in range, even though your maximum range was just here. So your max range expands once you've connected to a target, and you can actually get further back and then do, you know, jukes. So that's just like a little 1v1 trick for you, is once you're on them, you can actually step back. And since they're going to be chasing towards you if they think they're tankier than you, like a Roadhog or something, you can just do all kinds of crazy jukes with that mechanic. Because it actually expands away from your target. So, kind of neat little mechanic. Plus it's really hard to hit you with shotgun spread as a Roadhog. If you're doing, you know, jukes up close and getting right up on them, it's a pretty difficult shot. Unless you get hooked, you should be fine. I hardly ever die to a Roadhog when I'm Sim. I'm just... The way I see it, tanks are pretty much free ult charge. The only tanks I try to avoid is D.Va because the infinite ammo thing. That's about it. Every other tank, you should just count them as free ult charge in 1v1s. If Ryan's trying to chase you, I mean, he's going to have a bad time, especially with the range buff. So, as long as you don't get right on top of Ryan, you should be fine. Getting on top of Roadhog is probably the best thing you could do in a 1v1 because of the shotgun spread. 1v1 Tracer is pretty self-explanatory. They're going to obviously do their little recall. But that's when they do the recall, that gives you a point in time where you can charge up and pre-fire where their last recall position will be, or how you expect them to come back from the recall, charging back towards you. So let's say I'm chasing a Tracer down, right? And he does a recall, I step back like this, fire, and then he walks into the orb, and I finish him off, even after he gets all the HP back from the recall. So there's a few kind of little tricks like that you can do with different heroes. I might just make like a more advanced guide for, or more in-depth guide for hero encounters with Symmetra or something like that, how to kill each hero. Because basically you can kill every hero in the game with Sim, even a Winston, assuming that you hit a full right-click orb on them, especially with the buff that's coming. It gets a little bit tricky with the shield, but it's kind of weird how the mechanics work with the shield. Kind of same thing with the Rhine shield, which I guess I can go into later on. But in general, there's not really many heroes in the game that can 1v1 you. As long as you play it properly, there's very few. The only ones that you really are never going to be killing is Widow for obvious reasons. But if you're on top of her, obviously she's a free kill. I'm trying to think of anyone that you actually should avoid in a 1v1. In a pure 1v1, no pocketing, no nothing. If you can dodge the flashbang, McCree's a free kill. Because you just spam your duck, and he has to get a headshot, so it's not the biggest deal. Especially with the new rework, where you can just block his flashbangs with the E in the PTR. So that makes it even easier. This was before the buff, where you have the E that you can use in 1v1 engagements. Now, I mean, now in the PTR, you definitely win 1v1s all the time. But it's less about juking and doing kind of crazy movements. I'm trying to think if there's a single hero in the game you have to really be worried about. There really isn't. Some people would say Winston, but if you can hit orbs on him prior to the engagement and you engage properly, you should be fine. The thing with Winston is you always want to engage around health packs. Because even with this small amount of health that I get back, let's say I'm getting dove by a Winston. Now, let's say that you probably think this is a nightmare scenario, right? I have a teleporter down or something stupid like right here. You know, I'm staying on Sim for some reason, whatever. But I'm getting chased by a Winston. He chases me into this room, this jail, and you think, okay, well that's it. You're pretty much done. There's no way you're getting away from him. Well, you don't want to get away from him. He's the one who wants to get away from you because he's coming in here through a choke point. You're blasting him with orbs. They're pretty much unavoidable because of his size and the fact that he literally takes up this choke point. There actually is no way for you to miss this. So you're spamming orbs at him, right? You're getting behind the wall, you're doing jukes like this. You pick up this health pack, and once he comes into left click range, you start charging off of him. And then you keep the whole thing is you need to keep the charge going. It's so crucial. So you keep the charge going, pick up health when you need it, and then you start diving him so he can't hide behind a shield or leap away. Because at that point, this is just enough health to basically get you the 1v1 against him if he's not getting healed at all. Assuming you hit like an initial right click orb, which you have no way of really failing because this is such a small area. So it should be really easy for you to kill him. Just the only thing I can say is with Winston, just stay around health packs when you fight him, which generally are going to have some kind of choke point near them. Like even this over here is kind of a choke point for a Winston because if he's coming around the corner like this, it's really easy. You know, there's really so few ways you could actually miss the shot if he's coming around a corner at you. He's such a wide target to hit. He's really easy to hit with your right click orbs. So I would say the closest thing to a target you should avoid is Farah, because it's really hard to hit right clicks on Farah, and even if you do, she, especially after the update, she just, you know, flies away, or she's probably getting pocketed, healed by something like a Mercy or a Zen with an orb on her. The only time you can really ever kill a Farah is in an enclosed room. If you can juke the rocket spam, the splash damage from that, like if you played any decent amount of Quake 3 or something, you're probably really good at dodging rockets and things like that. It's a skill set that was pretty important back then. Then you might be alright, but Farah is like the only thing I can think of that you should avoid. It's actually just not worth your time. There's so many easier targets you can kill. So, anyways, I guess that's... Is there anything else to really say about Symmetra? Like in general sense, it can be applied everywhere. I already talked about the generator versus teleporter. It turned out to be a lot longer of an explanation than I thought it would be. This really wasn't like a formal thing. I'm just doing this on the fly. So, talked about the different shooting patterns, how to mix it up. I would suppose that's about it. That would, in a general sense, that's about it. I guess I can show a neat little mechanic that you can do on destructible debris in the maps. So, you place a turret on something that's destructible. Actually, bad example because I can't really get in that corner. Let's find a better spot to do this. So anything that's destructible, you generally can place your turret on top of. Something that you can do, for example, put a turret on different sides of it, break it, and then they stack into one mine, like that. So you can do things like that, catch people off guard. I mean, you could technically stack 6 turrets in one spot and just do like an insta-kill turret that looks like it's like one turret. It's actually just a bunch of them balled up from physics. There's a bunch of different things you can do. There's a lot of different creative things that you can do that are really, really niche. But, you know. Also, I would say shrubbery is your best friend. They did some kind of update where they made the shrubbery more prominent or something. Especially in maps like Eichenwald. Because I'm pretty sure, I do not remember changing these settings for these to be like this. These used to not even be here. I'll actually check right now if maybe my settings got reset. Don't believe I did not change anything. I know I didn't change anything. Where would it be at under here? This is just controls. Nope, nothing really here. Good old profanity filter, boys. 2016. Yeah, so I have everything set on low. but these still show up. These used to not show up on different settings. So the maps are actually becoming more friendly to Symmetra now because of this detail being added in. You can hide turrets better. You know, hiding behind shrubbery like that. These things have always really been here, but they're more like, what's the word? Kind of fleshed out. They're more bulkier than they used to be. So as you can see, they're gonna, you know, do their thing. They're chilling in there. So especially on maps like I said, Eichenwald, where there's little plants that are in those vases, those square vases or whatever you want to call them, pots, and you just can hide them in that. And they used to not have anything on top of them, but now they do. And they just hide in the grass and they just attack you for free. You can't actually see them; they're not visible. I guess the only thing I can really say is the best map for Symmetra is definitely the good old German map, without a doubt. No doubt in my mind about that. Definitely the strongest map for so many different reasons that I've already talked about that make turret spots good. So many good choke points. I mean, no one's going to be really surprised by that. And I would say the weakest map for Sim, especially with her upcoming updates, I would say all things that I know about Sim so far, the weakest map possible for her, I would say is Gibraltar. It is so hard to make her work on Gibraltar just because of all the different ways you can go in the map, just the layout of it. It's so open. There's so many flank routes, so much vertical height to it. It's a nightmare for Sim. It's really a nightmare. That's like the one map I pretty much never play Sim on. I'm trying to make Sim work on that map. I'll try when the PTR goes live, all the changes from the PTR, that is. I'll see if I can make it work maybe with a shield generator on the first point. I don't know. I'll have to do some experimenting there. But generally, best map, worst map, you have both of them now. So, just my opinion anyway. So I think that's about it. That's about all I can say about Sim in a more general sense. There's a lot of map-specific things. I can show all the try-hard turret spots and things like that that are incredibly map-specific. But the turrets I showed for the, this little session were shown because they're general in a sense where their concept can be applied to every map and every turret spot that's good. Like the ones where you have to do a 180 to take care of them, spreading them out, just general practices, like good practice. So I could maybe show like a good I would just be like every other YouTuber that does Symmetra guides if I just showed like spots, said this spot is good for this spot is good for that, and don't say why. So it's, I just wanted to add a lot more to it, explain these things so people could go out and find their own material, They know what makes a good spot for a teleporter or for a shield generator or whatever, and they don't have to just mindlessly, like a hive mind, just follow some tutorial that says, well, you want to put it exactly here, and then isometrically put it here, and then you don't want to be just a lab rat that just mindlessly follows whatever you're fed to you. You want to be able to think for yourself. At least I would hope that. So that's why I kind of went deeper into detail. So.